So coming up next we have Victor and Wendy Zammit. They're a couple from Australia. They are researchers, they're authors, they're veteran lecturers on the subject of the paranormal, the spiritual, and the life after death. And they've written a couple of interesting books about that as well. This is the first in a two-part interview, so do remember it's not all going to come out in this particular program, but it will come out all together in a future one when I play part two, which will probably be next week. So please do stay where you're sitting. Do not touch your dials when Victor and Wendy Zammit are up now. Hospital porters, pride and dignity, stop the New World Order. Welcome to HPANWO Radio. And ladies and gentlemen, we now have some very, very special guests on the HPANWO show on Critical Mass Radio. We have, all the way from Australia, Victor and Wendy Zammit. Hello, Victor and Wendy.
Oh, hello there, Ben. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, and hi, Ben. It's me here. We're Sydney, Australia. We're really looking forward to having this conversation.
Oh, me too. It's really great to talk to you two because I sign up for your newsletter, and I do recommend people do sign up for the Friday Afterlife report, which gives all, basically every piece of news on this subject will be recorded on this newsletter. And this is a subject, what we're going to talk about this evening is a subject that I'm particularly interested in. We've had other guests on, like Steve Trueblue was on. He's been on several times now, and he's I know you're connected with him too, and several other people who've been investigating this kind of subject. But just tell us a little bit about yourselves and what you do.
Well, I'm a retired lawyer. I've been retired now for nearly 6 years. I do this research in the afterlife. I've been doing this for the last 25 years, and got very, very interested in that, and I'm virtually full-time afterlife researcher, and I love it. I truly, truly love it because the information that I'm getting is so fantastic, so fabulous.
And Ben, I'm a retired psychologist. I only gave up work at the beginning of this year just simply because there was so much to do with the afterlife work. And like Victor, I'm a researcher and a writer. So I'm really enjoying what I'm doing now.
Oh, great. I mean, this is really interesting. Sort of, I'm glad you've spent so much time dedicating your time to uncovering this subject. I suppose one question would be, well, this is unusual. A psychologist and a lawyer, and you know, I'm sure we all know a few psychologists and lawyers, and you think, well, not many of them are really into this kind of thing. I mean, psychologists tend to be skeptics, I find. I mean, a lot of the big famous skeptics, the Susan Blackmores and the Richard Wisemans of this world, are all psychologists. So lawyers deal with evidence, don't they? Just evidence.
Look, Ben, that guy Wiseman and the other girl Blackmore, I came across them many, many years ago, and I can tell you that they don't have the capacity to perceive the paranormal with true scientific balance. That is the great problem for them, because what I have, what I can prove it scientifically. And when I sent my material to them, they didn't even respond, because not only that, there hasn't been a genius scientist or a genius academic or a genius materialist or a skeptic who was able to show where, when, how, and why the evidence I have in the book is not correct.
Absolutely. I mean, I actually wrote a review of Richard Wiseman's book Paranormality. If you actually Google Paranormality Richard Wiseman, my review at one point, it was about the sixth one down. Sixth it down. I'm sure he didn't like that very much because I was quite critical of his book. He's managed to knock it down a bit further now. Sure. But Susan Blackmore also, I think, has some personal reasons, I think, for what she does. That's a big subject. But she actually has her career as a parapsychologist was harrowing. We found it quite harrowing. So this is kind of that's an interesting thing, because I mean, you say that the skeptics have not addressed your evidence, and I think that's very true, because a radio show I listen to regularly is Skeptics Guide to the Universe, and they've only mentioned you once, and it was for just a couple of minutes, and they didn't cover anything. They didn't. Of course, anyone who looks at your material will know that they did not give you a fair hearing at all on that program.
Yeah. No, the thing is, look, I've been dealing with the skeptics for the last 25 years. I know who they are, I know what they talk about, and I know with absolute certainty that they are uninformed, and they do not read the evidence. They do not study the evidence, because I say to them, what aspect of the evidence you don't agree with? Let me know. Well, for example, when I'm with David Thompson, he's a materializations medium, and I met his guide, who comes through and becomes as solid as you and I, and we talk to each other, and I've known him now for the last 7 years. Now, I tell these people, I said, look, what, in an experimental situation, what intervening variables I am not controlling? Let me know.
Yeah,
but they don't answer, They don't answer.
I've not read all your book yet, but I know that you mentioned in the book you met Arthur Conan Doyle as well, who's a very famous psychical researcher.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. I mean, through David Thompson, a number of, not too many, but a few. But the thing is that Houdini came through. Now, I say to him, this is what I say to these people. I say, look, you have to tell us that you prove to us that you are who you claim to be. But mind you, before that, I usually, when William, who is the medium's main guide, comes through, I ask him, I said, look, can you give us your word that these are who they claim to be? He says, Victor, we do our research. I know what I'm doing. Right?
Hello, Victor? Victor?
Yeah, if they said they're Houdini, he's... Yeah, hello?
Hello, you dropped off a little bit there.
Have we dropped out?
Have we dropped out?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yes, I can.
Oh, we just dropped out for a moment there. I'm just going to... it's funny you mentioned Houdini, Victor, because I came across a book. Now, this is an important point, because, I mean, if you pick up a modern book which has just been published about the paranormal, you'll very often find that Harry Houdini, when he died, he died quite suddenly, actually. In 1926, he came down with peritonitis and was operated on, but they couldn't save him.
All right.
But he did say to his wife, Beth, he said that I'm going to leave you a coded message in an envelope, and when I die, I'll go and see the mediums and see if I come through, and this coded message will tell you whether I'm real or not, because he always didn't believe they were real. Now, according to modern books, that has never happened. And
that's sorry, that's not so.
It's not, no.
No, it's true. No. He came through, and I think the code word was forgive. But anyway,
there's a whole list of them in a letter.
Yes.
And this book that came out in 1920, there's a book published in 1983 by Reader's Digest, which actually says this. So why is it when you ask the man from Florida, as you call him, James Randi, why is it when you ask them, they will say, oh no, Houdini's never come through. He's never come through.
Come, Ben, we know he's not going to accept to anything that's paranormal. He's not going to accept that Houdini came through. No way in the world, because his whole life, his professional life, he's a professional skeptic. He'd be a nothing, a nobody, if he concedes that Houdini came through. No. You don't. He's a closed-minded skeptic, and we don't go to him. We need scientists and other highly qualified adjudicators who are non-aligned. They're not for us, not against us, but they have the capacity to perceive the paranormal in a scientific way.
Yeah.
That way, we say yes.
I think it's really... Sorry, carry on.
Ben, it's really interesting in this field. It's probably the only field where the people who are critical are not actually investigating themselves. What you find is that the people who are actually dealing with near-death experiences or dealing with investigating mediums or dealing with any of the other evidence understand the evidence and they understand how it works. And what we have is a little group of critics who have never got out of the armchair, who've never actually done the research themselves. And that's something that's unique in science. Normally in science, when you have people criticising, they are at least know what they're talking about.
That's very true, Wendy. And Rupert Sheldrake, who's a very, very good scientist from Britain, he's quite happy to deal with detractors like Professor Chris French, because French disagrees with him, but at least he's sort of like, he's civil and polite for a start, and he's honest. Whereas Rupert Sheldrake is refusing to work with Randy because he says Randy's a liar and misrepresents him deliberately. He twists and distorts the evidence that Sheldrake presents.
Yeah. So the thing is, look, he has the greatest hoax in American paranormal history with his silly challenge of so-called $1 million. Now, I have some people I know well. One of them is the Professor Van der Sand, who had somebody like our medium, David Thompson, but he comes from South Africa. And he could duplicate his experiments over time and space, and he got the same positive results. Now, I met this Professor Van der Sand in Las Vegas, and he told me that he applied for this so-called $1 million, but as soon as that guy from Florida knew that this guy could duplicate the experiment over time and space, and he got positive results, you know what this Professor Van der Sand told me? He said, the guy never replied to me ever again.
Yeah, that's right.
Never again. And even, and one in England, Chris Robinson told me that he had arranged with some TV station to get Randy to the TV station to do a live demonstration, because the bosses of the TV station were convinced that Chris Robinson is the genuine thing, and the TV station offered to pay all expenses for this guy from Florida. Now, and they said to him, well, we have a million viewers, and the guy when that guy from Florida was informed that there will be 1 million witnesses, he wouldn't be able to get out of his so-called challenge, and refused to reply to Robinson and the TV station people. So it shows that he will go to any length. He cheats and he lies to and to try to bluff that he's got something. In fact, in practice, he's got nothing.
Yeah, I mean, Randy has. I think on several occasions he's carried out an a spontaneous $1 million challenge experiment, but he's only done it at the TAM conferences where he controls all the variables. He won't do it on public live TV, as you said. I mean,
no. It's only when he's in control, and he insists that any psychic would do his demonstration in his own office. Yeah. I said, no. I said, haven't you heard of that? What's it called? The experimenter effect.
Yeah.
It's a scientific concept that closed-minded skeptic will get
negative results.
That's right. Yes. And so what we have here is someone who is a super con, right? And if people are stupid enough to and gullible enough to believe him, that's one thing. But a lot of people these days are not that stupid.
Yeah, absolutely. There's more and more people coming out, and there's Winston Wu, of course, or I think we both know. and Steve,
Winston, yeah.
Steve Trudeau and others who are sort of like skepticking the skeptics, which is a good thing to do. There's been another instance, Victor and Wendy, when there's a guy called George Simpson from Florida, just down the road from Randy, or in the same U.S. state anyway, actually filed a lawsuit against them for fraud, misrepresentation, and breach of contract.
Oh, right.
Have you heard about that?
No.
I haven't heard about that one.
Oh, right. Yes, I mean, something to put in your next afterlife report. It's very interesting.
I will, absolutely, yeah.
It happened in May 2012. Mr. Simpson, all the court papers are available. He's published. But he has a website called etcorngods.com. This is very interesting because there's very little discussion of this in the kind of skeptic media, in their media, which I study quite closely. There's actually nothing. They express some sympathy for JREF rejecting the challenge, but they don't actually go into any detail. And on Randy's own website, this is not mentioned, and it seems to sort of like go quiet, and even Simpson is not talking about it, which makes me think that the JREF settled out of court.
Yes.
It's possible. Yeah, it's possible.
Settled out of court with the condition that Simpson is not to say anything.
Yeah, I've got a feeling that they probably paid Simpson off to keep quiet. But I'll send you links to all the details.
I'd be very interested in that. Yeah.
There's and again, rather like this gentleman from Britain, he says, because he's in the court papers, in section 36 of the court papers, he says they don't return my phone calls or emails. It's like they're afraid of I'm going to win the $1 million.
Yeah.
And then,
we've had so many, Ben, who say exactly that they, as soon as they ring or that they enter, they're just totally ignored.
Oh, yeah, we had so many complaints to me, and they're saying, well, he doesn't answer it. He's got this thing, a challenge, and then we take him away. He doesn't answer it.
Yeah. Now, according to the last thing I heard, it was that the solicitors of JREF, they filed a motion to dismiss, and it was overruled. And then after that, there's nothing more at all. So this is very interesting because, I mean, if you go to the JREF website and you look through a section on the $1 million challenge, on first glance, it appears to be legally watertight. But is it actually?
Well, he can make statements, right? He can make statements. And when about 5 years ago, he emailed me, and when I said to him it's not legal, he said, why not? And I gave him the reasons why not. Then he changed all that. Now it's not so bad, you know.
Yeah. Well, he's changed the conditions. He now doesn't actually accept anybody unless they already have an existing media presence, which means the number of applicants is slashed. The number of viable applicants.
Look, the conditions he changes every 2 years.
Yeah, that's very, very
And one, look, he's got this challenge. I said, well, I've had a challenge, $1 million. I have a sponsor. He knows, he's convinced 100% that what we're saying, what we have is 100% foolproof. I said, I emailed Randy himself. I said, if you want a cool $1 million, just take me on.
Exactly, yeah.
And he said, all right, within 2 weeks, you'll hear from me within 2 weeks. That was 12 years ago. I'm still waiting.
You're one of several people, actually, Victor and Wendy, who've actually done this, because a friend of mine, actually, who's a TV producer over here in England, he issued a challenge. He issued a challenge to Randy as well, and I mean, he didn't have the money, but he offered him $100,000 if he could come and spend 6 weeks with him investigating haunted houses and other things like this, and take part. And Randy refused point blank. And of course, my friend used exactly the same kind of rhetoric against Randy that Randy uses against us. He says, well, if you don't need the money, you can give it to charity, etc., etc. You know, and Randy just ignored him. It's just, this man is not.
I'll say it again. I'll say it again then. He's got the greatest hoax in American paranormal history.
Yet he's not what he seems to be.
No, of course not.
Presented. I mean, he has a big following. I mean, I went to TAM London because there's been 2 TAM London conferences.
Oh, yeah.
And it was really quite amazing because he's a small, really wizened, really very ancient looking man. He's really old as the hill.
He's 80, I think he's 86 now, yeah.
86. And he was coming out, he sort of like hobbled on the stage, very, very short guy.
Yeah.
He got a standing ovation, and it was like, it was really quite almost an adoration. It was almost like looking at some kind of a religious ceremony.
They're all skeptics, though. They're all skeptics.
Oh yeah, but the skepticism. I mean, this is what made me think that the skeptic movement. I mean, being an open-minded skeptic, as you described yourself, is a good. It's how to deal with evidence using. The thing is, that the skeptic movement will say things like, "We believe in evidence, science, and we don't accept claims without empirical proof and stuff like this." But that's a slogan. It's not a description.
Yeah.
And you see, and so. When you actually see these people and you investigate them and you start talking to them, as I do, you'll find that it is actually an ideology that they have.
Yes.
And that's important to realise. And there's quite a lot of celebrities. There's several celebrities in Britain who are sort of like big Randy fans, and they came along to the concert. So that's an interesting.
But hang on. You mentioned these guys, but people like what? Professor Richard Dawkins?
Oh, he's one, but I mean, from the celebrity, Richard Dawkins is kind of a pop scientist. So there's several of those.
I don't think he supports Randy at all, that guy.
Richard Dawkins?
That's right.
Oh, Richard Dawkins has spoken very favourably of Randy and has done he did a joint lecture with Randy once.
But this must be some years ago.
Yeah, it was quite a while ago.
Not recently.
No.
He's gone quiet about Randy these last 2 years.
Has he?
Very quiet, yes.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, is he, because I mean, you think that they'd be on the same side. I mean, Dawkins professes this materialist ideology all the time.
Yeah, well, Randy tried to use Dawkins. As he tried to use other skeptics. But when I contacted Dawkins, I said, I'd like you to tell me where, when, how, and why the evidence that I presented cannot be right. Now, you're a scientist, and if you agree that with the definition of my science, that anything which can be repeated over time and space, keeping variable constant in an experimental situation, and which yields the same result, that has to be scientific. And if not, why not? He didn't argue with that. And I said, we have a medium here in Sydney where we can scientifically prove what he's doing in the paranormal is correct. I have David Thompson here, as I've known him for the last 9 years, and what he does is repeatable and it's objective, and we get the same results over time and space, right? And in experimental conditions, why do they not answer? Why are these scientists? No, why don't they answer when I send them this very important information? Because it's scientific. It cannot be refuted.
Yeah. Like, as far as Dawkins goes, I kind of get the feeling he's a kind of mouthpiece for these people. He talks about things he doesn't necessarily know about because he's a biologist. That's his speciality. But he did a program called Enemies of Reason where he sort of like flags off paranormal research and things like that to present the program. But essentially, he's never done. I don't think he actually knows much about it. I mean, he just, in a sense, he deals with it.
He never replied to my questions with this enemies of reason. I said, you talk about this, but you have not explained why growth takes place. Right? Where did gravity come from? You know what I mean? I asked some very interesting questions, and I knew he could not answer those questions.